Well, moving on now, the White House says that it has shot down 3 unidentified flying objects in the past several days. Now, for the moment, they have not made a connection to that Chinese surveillance balloon shot down earlier this month. It has been playing out in the papers, though, and our press reviewer, Geopolitical Laurent, is here with more.
Well, nobody seems to know what these unidentified flying objects are, Aaron, but at least U.S. officials have confirmed that they are definitely, or they say they are most likely not aliens. It hasn't stopped this French cartoonist, Marc Gonsalves, from sort of poking fun at the whole situation as you see this alien holding a bunch of balloons here, saying it's so simple to mount them, the humans, against each other. But jokes aside, the timing is very interesting. 3 mystery objects and an alleged Chinese spy balloon shot down in North America in just the past 2 weeks, U.S. officials say is part of an ongoing fleet of Chinese spy balloons. And in the communist government's newspaper, the Global Times today, well, this columnist accuses the U.S. of hysteria, paranoia, and vulnerability. You see really highlighted in that cartoon with Uncle Sam there under the table saying, send the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, we're under attack. This columnist calls the incursion of China's balloon in U.S. airspace earlier this month an accident, while accusing Washington of deliberately sending more than 10 balloons into China's airspace last year. And staying with that sort of criticism from the Global Times, this cartoon from the Chinese Communist newspapers cartoonist here, which really underpins the view that China sees the U.S. reaction, or at least the West reaction, as sort of over the top, exaggerated, perhaps fictional, as you see in this cartoon here, Aaron.
Now, obviously, the response, I imagine, Dipti, is quite different from the U.S. media.
Well, The Atlantic has an interesting article which says that China's balloon-sized blunder is actually a huge opportunity for the U.S. and its allies. Did that balloon episode actually give the U.S. an opportunity to rally public concern and international solidarity against China? That's sort of what this author in this article argues. The balloon shooting incident has awakened public concern, not just among North Americans, but among its allies around the world. This balloon episode has provided the West, this writer says, with something that it previously lacked: a, quote, dramatic, concrete illustration of Chinese activities that would raise public consciousness and would also raise the demand for action. Aaron.
We'll change gears now, Dipti. Here in France, tensions ran high in Parliament on Monday during debates on that controversial pension reform plan.
Well, you had a member of the far-left France Unbowed party who had to apologize after calling the French Labour minister a, quote, imposter and assassin. Last week, that same minister was the target of another stunt, an MP with his foot on a balloon with the minister's face on it. So French right-wing paper L'Opinion calls it really a provocation, really worrying in its on its front page today, worrying about this, about how French Parliament will deal with this growing animosity, this growing anger, at least verbal anger, that we're seeing among French MPs as they debate these very tense, very controversial pension reforms and this animosity that MPs cannot seem to temper anymore. Libération, the left-wing paper, meanwhile, in its coverage today, looks at the dilemma that the French left are facing, this left coalition are facing. They're at a crossroads, really, Libération says, about what strategy to take when it comes to pension reforms. Should they continue to block the reforms as they've done by imposing thousands of amendments that has really slowed down negotiations and debates, or should they speed things up and vote en masse against these reforms? So that's sort of the dilemma that they're facing. Perhaps, however, as Slate says, the real winner in all of this is the French far right. This is a really interesting article that looks at how Marine Le Pen's far-right party has so far been the, quote, silent victor in this battle of pension reforms, deliberately discreet, while the left coalition and the government rip each other to shreds.
All right, finally from you, Dipti, it is Valentine's Day, of course. And if you are really into celebrating the holiday, a new survey shows us the most expensive cities in which to celebrate.
Well, if you live in Shanghai, Paris, Milan, Washington, D.C., Doha, San Juan, or L.A., you might want to rethink your Valentine's Day plans this year. According to The Economist. There's a really interesting article here that looks at what it calls the cost of loving index. And it turns out the cost of loving in these cities are very, very, very high. The British Weekly newspaper has actually collected data from its sister company to compile this index. Valentine's Day in Shanghai, for instance, will set you back around $650, Erin, for a dinner for two, a movie for two, 2 drinks, a bottle of wine, and the taxi fare. That same date night, as you see here in Paris, would set you back just between $500 and $600. And the 15th most expensive city, Abu Dhabi, it would cost you $450, which is still a very big amount to pay for Valentine's Day. That's not to forget the preparation for Valentine's Day, because the second part of this survey looks at how much people are spending in these cities to prepare for Valentine's Day. So that includes, a blowout, it includes gym membership, it includes makeup, lipstick, what have you. And it turns out that LA is the most expensive city when it comes to date preparation, which sets you back just under $500. So basically preparing for a date and having a Valentine's Day date in LA will cost you about $1,000 this year, Erin. It's a lot of money.
Sounds like a good time to remind viewers that money obviously does not buy happiness. So if you have to dip into your savings to take somebody out on Valentine's Day, it's probably not a good sign. Dipti Laurent, thank you very much.